You're listening to the Identity at the Center podcast. This is the show that talks about identity and access management and making sure you know who has access to what. Let's get started. Welcome to the Identity at the Center podcast. I'm Jeff, and that's Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Not so bad. Yourself?
Good. So my thought for the day is, have you ever been in a meeting, maybe a workshop, and thought, I want to ask a question, but I'm afraid I'm going to sound really stupid?
Every second of every day of every meeting ever.
Yeah. Well, I had one of those moments today, right? A client that I was working with, one of the people was talking about two products, Aardvark and RepoKid. Have you ever heard of those? Do you know what they do?
I'm guessing they have something to do with like a GitHub style code repository. I'm totally making this up, so I have no idea.
It's not that far, right? But usually if you haven't heard of it as something on the developer side, but yeah, so those were the two technologies. And of course, it's like immediately go to Google and type it in, but it's hard to do that and kind of pay attention at the same time. But I had to do that this time. And it's basically like an open source CIEM platform with automation. And guess who is the open source owner of this?
It's a CIEM tool. So you're talking about cloud infrastructure entitlement management, the new kind of space KEEM.
Yeah.
Who owns it? Splunk?
Netflix.
What?
So yeah, so apparently Netflix is like one of the biggest Amazon Web Services users, and they are so good at using Amazon Web Services that, according to this person that we were speaking with, who is an AWS expert, people go to get jobs at Amazon, learn Amazon so that they can leave Amazon to go to work for Netflix.
Okay, that's interesting. I've never heard of this. I'm doing a quick Google search because, that's consulting 101 to get good about it. It sounds like this has been around since June 2017. Aardvark and RepoKid. Interesting. I'll have to read up on this. I have, definitely not my expertise is not building applications and taking advantage of this type of stuff. But I wonder why we'll come across AWS all the time. I've never heard of this thing.
Right. Well, neither have I. And, I kind of thought about, from what I could see of it, it looks like it's actually really good. With the disclaimer that it's open source, which isn't necessarily all bad, right? There's pros and cons to open source. Remember I'm trying to think of who our guest was on the podcast where the open source is like, yeah, open source is free like a puppy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that was that our friend Adam over at Texas A&M?
Yes. Good call.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with open source. You got to be prepared to support it though, for sure. So it's interesting. You've given, peel back the curtain here is I never know what you're going to bring up in these first couple minutes. It's always a surprise for me. So I'm literally just reacting, and I have never heard of this thing. And now I've got some reading for tonight. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope our listeners do as well.
Yeah. So Aardvark and RepoKid, if you just type in Aardvark like the animal, and RepoKid, RepoKid, one of the first hits on Google is a blog entry from Netflix Technology Blog, which I had no idea that even existed, that talks about introducing Aardvark and RepoKid, AWS least privilege for distributed high velocity development. That is a buzzworthy name, certainly for an article. So I guess check that out. Actually, I'll grab the link and I'll put it into our show notes so that way I don't forget. If you're listening, check those out wherever you're consuming this podcast. It'll be in the show notes as well. Why don't we get to our topic for today? Because I know we're on kind of a limited of a time schedule and want to make sure that we don't ruin our guest's evening. We're going to talk about Identity Management Day 2022 and welcoming back for her fourth appearance on the show. We've got Julie Smith. She's the executive director at the Identity Defined Security Alliance. Welcome back, Julie.
Thanks, Jeff. Jim. Always happy to be here and love spending an afternoon, even if it bleeds into the evening with you guys.
Well, we appreciate it. And this is your fourth appearance. You were with us pretty early on. This is episode 140, I believe. You were with us on episode 57, 88, 99, and now 140. So about 6 months ago, the last time we were on, we talked about the 2021 trends in securing digital identities, which is a report that the IDSA has put out for a couple of years now. That was back in June of 2021. So folks who are listening, go check that out. But for the folks who aren't as familiar with the IDSA, what is the IDSA?
Great question. So the Identity Defined Security Alliance is an organization that has been around as a standalone, not-for-profit, I call it a trade association, since 2019. So we're on our fourth year. And we are focused on providing security technology professionals with information, education, webinars, blogs, research, et cetera, on the importance of securing digital identities. And our membership is made up of leading identity and security technology vendors, as well as end customers in the form of our customer advisory board members, and we also have some new membership types that we've introduced as well for end user practitioners who want to participate and give back to the community through the helping to develop resources and provide education and share their experiences back to the broader community on how to secure digital identities.
Yeah, it's a very cool organization, and obviously we support it. Obviously just having you on as well, but also things like Identity Management Day and Be Identity Smart Week. I know it's been a busy last kind of few months since the last time you heard back in June. You kind of teased one of I think the headline features is the individual memberships, because I believe prior to that, this was really more for like corporate memberships or vendors and things like that. Is that right?
Well, I would say, yeah, the way we got started was primarily through the vendor community, right? So actually competing identity vendors and also non-traditional identity vendors coming together and creating vendor neutral resources for practitioners to get more informed and more aware of why we need to protect our digital identities. So we just recently introduced new membership types, and those membership types are for practitioners within customer organizations. So we have recently had some new members join us from Target, from a government agency, from Australia, actually, a identity contractor in the financial services industry down in Australia. So these folks have joined the organization as contributor members and will get a chance to participate in our technical working groups and participate in the other sort of member-only type activities that we have going on. And it gives them an opportunity to network with their peers, to learn a little bit about what we're up to and give back to the community. The other type of membership that's focused on end users are for corporations. So if there's organizations out there who have large identity and security organizations that are interested in having several people participate, we also have corporate level memberships as well. So the idea is to start to bring a voice of the customer, the practitioners that are out there dealing with these identity challenges on a daily basis into the work that we do. So that was an exciting announcement we made in January.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a pretty good shift, and it's always great to have more representation from the people, so to speak, in the space, right? The people who are doing the work in the real lives. There's some other things you guys have worked on too. I know that there was the Zero Trust Alliance work that you guys did between NIST and the National Cybersecurity Alliance, and a few months ago, actually, this is I think October of last year, 2021. There was Be Identity Smart Week. What were some of the highlights from those two areas?
Yeah, so last year around January, we announced a partnership with the National Cybersecurity Alliance. So you go back to our target audience for our mission is security professionals, right? The idea that we're trying to make them more aware, not that they aren't, but more aware about the dangers of poor identity hygiene, if you will, and the impact it can have on the security posture of their organizations. So we partnered with the NCA last year, and we brought the first ever Identity Management Day last April 13th. So over the summer and into last fall, we held a couple of additional events with the NCA. So Making Sense of Zero Trust was an event that happened actually in August. And you can find all this information out on our website and the recordings from the sessions. But we came together with the NCA and the NIST, National Cyber Center Security of Excellence, and put on 2 panel sessions, virtual panels. One was focused on the resources that are available both kind of in the public and private sector around zero trust and the frameworks that have been developed. And obviously the primary focus there was around the announcement last summer around from the federal government around the push for zero trust inside government agencies, as well as organizations doing business with the federal government. And so the one panel was focused on resources I mentioned. The other was more practitioners who have implemented zero trust. So it was a great event. We had a couple hundred folks that participated and listened in, asked questions. And as I mentioned, the recordings out there on our website. And then again, partnering with NCA, they've hosted for a number of years now National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, I should say, in the month of October. And so the last week we did sort of an overlay event with, if you will, where we wanted to focus specifically about the role of identity security in overall security strategies. So we held, again, a week of awareness where we shared lots of resources. And we had an event during that week as well. Just, again, trying to educate and trying to create awareness around this important topic, which we've seen played out quite a bit in the last 14 months or so, if not longer.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I think identity is, obviously we named the show for a reason, Identity Center, but
right.
I'm looking at the website for the Identity Defined Security Alliance. It's idsalliance.org. And up on the top there's a section for webinars. And I see some of the webinars. You guys actually have a lot of stuff here that I think a lot of people would get some good value out of, including kind of the zero trust stuff that you talked about, but also DevSecOps, et cetera. One thing caught my eye though, and it's the last item here on the list, and it says that you guys are an approved ISC squared CPE partner. I think that
yes.
is that new, or has that always been there?
No, that's new as well. So yeah, we've had a couple of exciting announcements this year so far, and we're already at the end of March, or only at the end of March, depending on how you look at it, right? Yeah, so we are now an ISC squared approved ISC squared submitter partner. I never get that right. Which essentially means that people can consume our content, which you'll see if you have our website. There's a lot of white papers, blogs, and can record on their own that they have read those papers and submit that for CPE credit for CISSP certification. You can also attend our webinars or watch our webinars and submit your number to us, and we'll submit on your behalf. And then the memberships I mentioned previously that are focused on security practitioners, that participation also applies to ISC squared CPE credit. So again, we'll submit that on your behalf. And so there's a section of the CPE credits that apply to giving back to your organization, or giving back, to the industry. And so that's the key piece there that we're offering as part of the what's called a contributor membership.
I think that's fantastic. It's a way for people to, keep up with their continuing education, get credit for it. But I'd like to shift gears to the discussion about Identity Management Day. Kind of want to start off with some of the basics. So when is it? Where is it? And how much does it cost?
Of course. Yeah. So when is it? It's April 12th. So it's always the second Tuesday of April. This year, that is April 12th. Where is it? It's virtual. So it's happening on social media is one place you can go. Our website is another place you can go. But the online component of it in terms of sharing resources and best practices will happen via social media. So we have 2 hashtags that you can follow. Hashtag IDMGMT Day 2022. I know that's a tough one. So that we'll include that hopefully in the speaker notes, Jeff, or the session notes. And Be Identity Smart is the other one. That's the one that's maybe a little bit easier to grab onto. But if you follow those hashtags on social media, starting now and on the day, you'll find lots of resources that are being shared by the broader community that'll help you become smarter about securing digital identities. And the other place that the event will be happening is we'll have essentially what's become a virtual conference on Identity Management Day, the 12th, starting at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. And I live in Denver, so I orient everything towards Mountain Time. But starting at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, we'll have a series of sessions that'll happen virtually. And it'll be, we've got a great lineup of panel sessions. You can register, and hopefully we'll put the link in the session notes as well on how to register. The events will also be recorded. So, if you register and aren't able to participate in the various sessions throughout the day, you can go back for about a month afterwards and watch the recordings. So we're super excited to expand from last year into a series of sessions throughout the day.
So you didn't say how much it costs, so I'm assuming it's very expensive. But what about for all the listeners of this podcast, they get to go for free?
That's perfect. I couldn't have a better offer than that. Yes. If you're listening to this podcast, then registration is free. All of the resources on our website, whether it's part of Identity Management Day or not, are all free as well. So that's kind of goes back to our mission, is that as a not-for-profit, we're providing all of these resources for free because we believe this is such an important topic for security professionals.
It would be tough to make a profit at free, but I think I was trying to describe Identity Management Day to someone who's not in the industry, and the way I described it was it's kind of like a day to celebrate and acknowledge the IAM practitioner, which I consider myself part of. I want to know, like, how close am I? And also, after you answer that, it seems like each year you've got different themes or different focuses. What are the themes for this year?
Yeah. So, Jim, as a matter of fact, that is one of the key things that we've introduced this year, is celebrating your identity team. So there's a get involved page out on the website, and we have provided people with social cards that they can use to give kudos to their identity team, whether it's your identity consultant, whether it's your identity vendor, whether it's your identity team within an enterprise or an SMB organization. Use those social cards to give them kudos on LinkedIn or Twitter, or even if you just want to send it directly to them. So it's very definitely a day of celebrating and recognizing identity and security professionals, for sure. So thanks for thanks for that one. That was a key point I wanted to bring up for sure. So in terms of like the themes, the importance of securing digital identities is one of those things that has been around for a while, and I think is going to continue on. So that will be the overarching theme. But there's a few things that when we started planning out this year's Identity Management Day that we thought about, and you'll see some messaging and also resources supporting that, is just this idea of our personal and professional lives have continued to blur, right? It kicked off a couple of years ago when we went into lockdown, so to speak, and everyone was living a remote life, and that continues on. And what we see in the headlines is that it's going to continue on for a while, I think, beyond the situation that we're in now. So this, whether you're wearing your, personal hat shopping, you need to protect your digital identity, or your employee hat and being a good corporate citizen, you need to protect your identity as an employee, or maybe you're working with customers and your third party person, and you need to protect that identity as well. So that blurred line idea was definitely one of the things that we talked about. The other thing we talked a lot about was the fact that no one is immune, right? What I think we witnessed in the last year or so is that even if you're a small to medium-sized business, you could potentially be a target for a cyber attack. And in the case of a couple of the high-profile breaches, the impacts are pretty significant. And so, it's everybody's responsibility, from an organization to an individual, to protect their digital identities. So those were kind of the main threads that we talked about. And I would say the third then was also this desire to do our part to help fill the cybersecurity skill gap that seems to have grown with the situation we found ourselves in the last couple of years. And so we've got some exciting things happening there around a next generation fund that we've established, and are hopeful that the community will contribute into that fund, and then we will donate those proceeds, if you will, to organizations that are focused on providing training, free cybersecurity training to individuals who wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to get into tech and cybersecurity careers. And then they also help with the organizations who are trying to fill their talent pipeline as well. So it kind of has an interesting side of things where we're creating a bigger talent pool, and then also providing a pipeline into organizations that want to tap into that talent pool. So
Yeah.
that's one of the new things for Identity Management Day as well this year.
Yeah, I think it's such a great venture that you're getting into, because I heard something recently like there are over 500,000 currently open information security jobs out there. So like what other industry is at that level? And the other thing Jeff and I talk about all the time with regards to identity and access management and being a program manager is different kinds of individuals. What you don't have to be a super technical person or a great mathematician, finance person. You could be any of the above, or you could be none of the above and still be a great IAM program manager. So I think your focus there with the venture fund makes a ton of sense. But back onto the Identity Management Day, the last thing I wanted to understand was, because I looked online at your website and got an idea for who some of the speakers are. I don't want to steal your thunder. Maybe I'll just turn it over to you to talk about that. But one of my observations was, first off, a lot of the folks that were on the list have been past guests of the Identity at the Center podcast. So, if you see them and you either like their talk or you want to prepare for it, download their episode, of course. But the other thing I saw was, you've got people who are working for competing firms, and I think that speaks to the IDSA's vendor neutrality. So I wanted you to kind of maybe address that first, and then kind of talk through some of the speakers.
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, the vendor neutrality part of it is very important. It's very important to me personally. As the executive director, I kind of feel like that's my role, to make sure that we are staying vendor neutral and putting out education and resources that are balanced, if you will. And so, yeah, if you look at our membership list, you'll see, fierce competitors, and yet it's really exciting to see when they come together and talk about the challenges that are facing customers today. I mean, that's really what it's all about, is how do you leave the vendor hat at the door and really just focus on solving this problem, because we're all so interconnected, that we're only as strong as the weakest link in that chain. So we very much focus on the vendor neutrality part of it. In terms of the sessions, yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about the speakers that we have lined up, and the topics that we'll be discussing on Identity Management Day. I mean, anywhere from why are we still in this situation today? Why are we still seeing these pretty significant breaches that are tied back to compromised identities? How can we help SMBs be more secure, and what advice can we provide to them? zero trust and why identity is so important to zero trust strategies. And then we'll be talking a little bit about the future of identity and where are we going with, portable identity and, mobile credentials and those kind of things. And that sort of blows open this whole identity world, really, from both the organization perspective, so from enterprises to governments to individuals. And then I guess I would say the last theme we'll hit on or session we'll hit on is sort of what's missing. What is it that we're missing in identity? And that's I think going to be a super interesting conversation as well. So I'm thrilled about all of the speakers that are participating and agreed to be a part of Identity Management Day this year.
I'm glad you brought up the what's missing in identity, because our very good friend Jamie Lewis Gross is actually part of that panel. So inside baseball for us is Jim and I used to work together doing advisory way back in the day for identity and access management. So I am looking forward to that. I know that she will come prepared with some interesting things, and I think part of other people on that panel are like Eve Mailer, who's been on our show twice, Richard Bird, Helen Patton. That's going to be a good one, because I think it'll be interesting to find out what has been missing. Like why aren't we further along than where we are today? And so I don't want to spoil their thunder, but that's something that I'm looking forward to for sure. So I'll be in the crowd, hopefully cheering on Jamie and the others who are part of that. It's a pretty cool lineup of folks you've got out there. A lot of interesting topics. I love their vendor neutrality of it, and I get a little bit jaded when I start hearing vendor presenting something. It's like, okay, what are they trying to sell me? And that is not the intent of this type of presentation, right? This is very much ideas, substance, talking about problems, but not so much and here's how our product, solves it, right? That sort of that's really what we try to do here on our show too, right? Is be vendor neutral, not be selling something all the time, really any of the time as much as we can, except ourselves, of course, because we are shameless self-promoters. But I think it's a great conference day, set of collection of events around this that really kind of speaks to the thing that I like most about identity is let's talk about issues and challenges, and let's take off our vendor hats and really just kind of talk through the issue. Like how do we solve things, and work better together to make things better for really everyone as we go through it. So I'm excited to see what comes out, on April 12th for sure.
Yeah, agreed. And that I think you'll find if you scoured our website, and if I'm wrong, please let me know. But I think if you scoured our website, you would not find a product pitch there. It is very much about rising above, how we deliver it from one technology better than another, but more focused on, what are the challenges and what are the kind of what are the capabilities that are needed, and what are the best practices for addressing this challenging problem.
It's a safe place. I love it. I'm in support of it, obviously. Why don't we start to wrap things up? Because I know we're kind of a little bit of a time schedule here today, but before we started the show, and we were kind of getting prepped to making sure we're on the same page, we had a kind of an interesting conversation. I was like, okay, let's end our show with that. And to peel it back, here's my question for you, and then we'll go around the room. What is an upcoming concert you are looking forward to? And I think this is relevant because finally the world is starting to open up. People are starting to be able to congregate, do things that they haven't been able to do, for the last couple of years. Julie, what do you got? What's something that you're looking forward to from a concert perspective?
Yeah. So last Thursday, and I hope this doesn't date myself, but it will. Last Thursday, I bought tickets to Jackson Browne at Red Rocks. And I think it's going to be an awesome concert. I've heard he's fantastic live. He might be one of those artists that might not be around for a long time. I had some new friends tell me they were going on what they're calling sort of the Walking Dead tour, which is basically making sure they hit all of the acts that are kind of touring for the supposed last time anyway. So this might be the case with Jackson Browne. But I think the other thing for me, I live in Denver, I think, as I mentioned previously, and you can't go wrong with a concert at Red Rocks. So for those that have not been or have it on their list of places to be, absolutely do it. It's the most amazing place to see a concert.
I've never been to Red Rocks. Can you describe it for somebody who's not as familiar with it? Because I've seen pictures and it looks awesome just
Yeah.
from like a scenery setting. But if I was not familiar at all with Red Rocks, and there might be people, right? We have people around the world who listen to this show that don't know what Red Rocks is. How would you describe it for those folks?
Well, the first thing I would say is there's a lot of walking, and given that it's a mile high plus, it is a workout combined with a concert. So the if you've seen pictures of it, the stadium kind of goes up from the stage, but it's the acoustics are phenomenal. There are two gigantic, beautiful red rocks on either side of the entire theater. And it's outdoors, and typically in the summer in Colorado, the nights are just fantastic and they're clear and beautiful stars. And I have spent, gosh, when I first moved here in '99, I think it was, I was there for a Dave Matthews concert, and right in the middle of it, it just started pouring down raining, and then the lightning started. And this was, they've since changed their policies, but anyway, it was, you got to be prepared for a little bit of everything. So be prepared for a workout, be prepared for a rainstorm, but it's so worth it. It's the most amazing experience if you're a music person.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage, if you haven't seen it, check out, I mean, obviously Google is great for this type of stuff, looking at pictures, but two rocks on the side of the stage really doesn't do it justice. I mean, this is literally like a concert venue plopped into the middle of like a mountainside, basically.
Yeah, it's a canyon. It's basically a canyon. Yeah.
It is
so
what
they call a natural amphitheater.
Yep.
I've
Jim,
never been there, so I'm such an expert. Like,
we're all experts with Google now.
I've been to over 100 concerts, so but I've never been there. And I am also a big Jackson Browne fan. I won't sing any of his songs today.
Thank you.
I know, for the great disappointment of everybody who's listening. So I'm really excited by this question because I'm going to the Carolina Country Music Fest this summer. It's on the beach in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and it's a 4-day music festival. Each night they've got a different headline act. So Thursday night is Chase Rice, then it goes Keith Urban, Luke Bryan, and Jason Aldean. And they're like, I love all those performers, and I just can't wait. An extended weekend at the beach, country music. I've got VIP tickets. I'm gonna have a few beers and enjoy myself.
It's gonna be a life is good for Jimmy Mack that week, I think, right?
Absolutely.
I've been to a lot of concerts in my day, probably at least 100 or so. I remember one summer, my group of friends and I we were probably, I don't know, somewhere between the ages of like 19 and like 22. We hit probably 100 different concerts over the course of 2 years. Like there was one summer where we just saw everybody in the Chicago area that we could find, and it was awesome. I don't have anything booked at the moment. The closest thing is probably Lollapalooza, which they announced the lineup recently. I usually have been watching it on the stream because there's no way that I'm going to go and try to compete with the sweaty throngs of people in downtown Chicago for that. I'm more of a, hey, let's sit in the VIP section, look down upon the show and enjoy it and things like that. But Lollapalooza looks awesome this year. You got Metallica, you've got Green Day, you've got Royal Blood, which is this really cool kind of English band that I'm a fan of, that people should check out. Rez, which is more on the EDM side of things. So like it has a little bit of something for everything, for everyone there. But that's the kind of venue that I like, where you're going basically from like one stage to another stage, and you're able to see not just one style of music, but a lot of different styles of music. So I think that's a pretty killer lineup. Those are not the headliners, obviously, the other things like Dua Lipa and Machine Gun Kelly and other folks and stuff like that. But Metallica, Green Day, Royal Blood, Rez, that right there, that's sold me on it. So hopefully they will stream it again online this year, and I'll be able to watch it remotely and enjoy it that way. So I'm I know I'm not interested in competing anymore for space at conferences in person, unless it is, again, VIP treatment. So if you're an Identity at the Center, listener, and you maybe work for House of Blues or some other concert venue, and you want to send VIP tickets, to Jim or I, we'd be happy to test those out for you and help with that.
Nice plug.
Yeah, thanks.
We
Appreciate
it. We couldn't have 3 more different musical genres going on right there, could we, huh?
Yeah, we are all over the place.
So what
That's
came to
awesome.
mind, Jeff, was, as you mentioned, the EDM piece. Trivia question, IDAC trivia question is, who is our EDM musician guest?
Yeah, the only guest that we've ever had that we actually played some of his music on our show to close it out. I'll bet Julie doesn't even know this. And he is actually part of Identity Management Day and will be one of your presenters. She's pointing at the screen. We do this audio only, obviously, but we have video just to kind of coordinate here. And I think she's probably realized who it might be. Julie, you want to take a guess?
Yeah, actually, we had this conversation yesterday or the day before. Den Jones.
Absolutely. Den Jones.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I did not. I don't think I'd known him since we were talking about that too. I think I've known him since 2019. And I don't think I actually knew that until this week.
Yeah, it's amazing what you find out when we're having these kinds of conversations. It's kind of cool. This is why we like to do kind of like, the lighter note stuff at the end to really kind of understand, because, there's more people than just the identity stuff they work on, kind of show the personality behind it. But yeah, Den is a very good. I enjoy his stuff quite a bit, actually. So if you haven't checked him out, go listen to our episode on him. I think it was, I don't remember what episode it was, but it was relatively recently. But we talked to him about a few different things.
129.
129. But we played one of his songs. He was gracious enough to let us play something at the time that wasn't released, I think, or had just come out as part of the end of that episode. But he has a whole SoundCloud channel. And I think it's Urban Punks, if I remember. That I'm a pretty fan of. But it's kind of cool because there's lots of people in the identity space that have some musical talent. I know Eve Mailer, for example, and what is the name of the band?
Yeah, so that's what I was just trying to remember. That played at the Cloud Identity Summit a couple of years in a row.
Yeah, I think it's ZZ Off.
Yes,
so
that's right.
It's, there's a whole bunch of people in kind of the identity space that kind of form this band. Usually, I think their main platform is Identiverse is usually where they play. So I've seen them a couple of times, but it's pretty cool to kind of see out there in the wide range of talents and genres that we all cover, and that's what makes us strong. It's the best group of people in the business is the identity folks. So shameless plug for that. All right. I know we've started to ramble here.
We should have our own day.
We should have our own day. If only there was something coming up.
Identity Management Day, April 12th.
Yeah, April 12th. Any final thoughts, Julie, before we wrap things up? Or is that it?
Yeah,
that's
one. Yeah, be a part of it. Check out the website, register for our virtual conference on the 12th, and check out our memberships. So if you're a security practitioner and looking to give back to the community and get tied into this identity network, please check out our new membership types. And then probably last is help, build the next generation, help make them identity smart is the way we think about it, and donate to our next gen fund. And thanks you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. As always, it's fun to hang out. And
it's always a good conversation, and this is an opportunity to pay it forward and really kind of recognize folks in the space. We'll have a whole bunch of links to stuff in the show notes that people can check out, but the main hub I would probably point to is idsalliance.org, and from there you kind of spread out, wherever things might be, but we'll have direct links to things as well. Jim, any final thoughts from yourself for this week?
Yeah, number one, thank you to Julie and everybody who's putting in the effort to make IAM Day a reality and a free resource for all of us in the IAM practitioner community. And then just a recognition that this is a really small community. We always say that, and it's because we have conversations like this where we're talking about the same people. We've met the same people. But the other thing I wanted to extend out there to people who are new to the industry, maybe don't have these contacts and don't know other people we're talking about. I am telling you that these folks, almost everybody we talked about about today are open to networking and connecting and making this an even smaller world. So reach out to me, reach out to Jeff, reach out to Julie. LinkedIn's usually a great way, make an introduction, attend IM Day. A couple years down the road, you may be presenting at some of these, depending on where you're at in your career, and then pay it forward. Start helping the next generation of IM professionals make this a small world.
Here. Jimmy for president. How about that? That's a platform I'll get behind.
You wouldn't like that, and I probably would get impeached very quickly.
Yeah, you're probably right. Let's just stick to identity. How about that?
I like it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up for this week. Julie, thank you so much for being with us again for fourth time. We don't have like a club for like the 5-timers club, like the Saturday Night Live. We'll have to think of something, I guess, at some point. So as we move further down the line, I'm sure we'll have further conversations. For us, as far as Identity at the Center, we have that weekly live stream. We're at idac.live. That'll take you right to our YouTube channel. We've been trying to do it weekly. We're kind of weaving it in between podcasts and our real life and jobs and things like that. So there's sometimes weeks where we haven't been able to hit it. I know we've kind of skipped the last 2 weeks just because scheduling hasn't worked out, but we are planning to hit it again here and be live. So if you hit idac.live, you can watch them live or you can watch the replays. And of course, everything on the website, identityatthecenter.com, and on Twitter at IDAC Podcast. So with all those plugs out there, we'll go ahead and call it for this week. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will talk with everyone in the next one. Thanks for listening to the Identity at the Center podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and visit us on the web at identityatthecenter.com.